This is going to be not as comedic a broadcast. So last month, just days after the attack in Israel, I did a expert generator scenario in which I interviewed 3 experts, 3 witnesses of the Nakba, meaning 3 Palestinians who had witnessed something that had been in history kind of suppressed. And also, I had 3 Zionists on, and it was uncanny, the difference in tone. Palestinians, talking to them was very spare, and there was not much frills, but there was a lot of intense emotion and reaching out and acknowledgement on my end of just what type of shit Americans fund. The Zionists, on the other hand, they were very aggressive, distracting when I tried to press them further, and the bodies that were buried beneath the resort I had us be on, a mystery guest appeared and said, "Oh, very curious, you're asking these questions, you twat." Something like that. It's like, okay, alright. People are not wanting to talk about things. So that was very uncanny. So now, after having read a lot about dispensational Pre-Millenarism, which is a type of Christianity, a type of way of viewing end times. Namely, you believe in the end times. I used to. Not so much. I believe everyone who dies has an end time. Maybe it's a metaphor for that. I don't know. Okay. Okay, so we are going to okay, so I'm going to take this. Alright, there we go. Let's try, let's find a voice. Good voice. Where is Isabella Rossi? Sure.
Before you stands an expert generator. With it, you can call forth an expert in any field, any skill, any lived experience, living or dead. And once you submit your request, 3 potential experts are presented to you. After reading each of their bios, you choose the one that most fits your situation, with room to regenerate if necessary. You begin to type your inquiry. Hello. I would like to speak to 3 witnesses of the Nakba, the Zionist-led massacre of Palestinians in the 1940s. You hit the button, and the machine whirs and gathers what sounds to be fanfare as 3 candidates appear before you.
We should take out the fanfare.
Yaakov Beritze. I saw the killing of thousands of Palestinians, just innocent children. He's the father of 3 who was visiting Jerusalem when the attack started. 2. Isamar Safieh. I escaped the burning remnants of my home after Zionist raiders burned everything down. Now all that remains are memories and my broken heart. She was a lifelong activist for the Palestinian cause. 3. Shamil Jabin. I will never forget the day they murdered my uncle and grandfather, leaving only me and my father left. Host, thank you once again for coming here to talk. This time I would like to speak of a different topic. Do you all know of Christian millenarism, namely dispensational Pre-Millenarianism?
No, yep. That's all it. Attack you! just for right now.
Birdsey smirked but straightened quickly. That was pretty recent, actually, back in 1820-ish. According to their reading of biblical prophecies, we are currently in the age of the Holy Spirit. This means we are awaiting Jesus' return. But if we sin enough, then Jesus will give up on us, and the planet Earth will burn forever. Pretty convenient theory, given the constant wars and pandemics. Since the resurrection, their faith must continue growing and preparing for that moment. Host. Now what about Issamer? What do you think of this doctrine? Issamer fidgeted a moment before clearing her throat. Christian Zionism has held too much power over people's lives for me to forgive them entirely. As for Pre-Millenarism, I'm no theologian, but as a rational thinker, I think that those claims couldn't even possibly be true. She smiled sadly, especially since Jews and Palestinians who have suffered deeply, but kept the love and faith alive throughout, are waiting in vain. It would destroy our way of thinking to believe that would endanger us now, wouldn't it? She faced him again, nodding. Finally, looking grim but thoughtful, Shamma leaned forward. Premillennialism struck me as a bizarre claim even as a boy. How can we ever lose the holiest place on earth, to use their argument? Even the Hebrew wording doesn't make sense, implying that Muslims are a scourge to Judaism. Besides, what kind of power structure did these colonists desire to impose anyway? He frowned. But then again, for many believers, reality becomes just that. Words on a page and prophecies long discarded or lost. As he says this, you couldn't help but sense an oddity to Shamma's speech. As he gestured, something flickered, transparent yet undeniable. Still, many would maintain, wouldn't you say so? Or you also tend to agree with the Palestinian that Zionism can go? I agree. He responds, also frowning as if attempting to unnerve this moment.
Curious parallel. The English Puritans when they were disillusioned with England being their new Israel, then set their sights to the new continent. And that land became their new Canaan. Very horribly literal. I just
Host. Curious parallel. The English Puritans, when they were disillusioned with England being the new Israel, then set their sights to the new continent. And that land became their Canaan. Very horribly literal. Just ask the First Nations. I just sent a bunch of excerpts of a study on this doctrine and how it has been feeding American foreign policy since way before the Nakba. We thought our place was the promised land. Then the Civil War happened, so we shifted its meaning to something more abstract. That is, until Zionism was looking for a place safe for the Jews. Many saw their ambitions align with redemption as God's plan and embraced it so politically. Now, Isama, tell me what you think about this reading as a born Muslim and someone who experiences Palestinian ethnic cleansing. Can a land even be redeemable if it's been corrupted by bloodshed through violence and oppression, no matter whose? At this, Isma sits back and looks into the camera directly. Although the land you spoke of still has Native American tribes with grievances, it is clear that white Puritans saw themselves as destined to make a place here. They cleared the woods and imposed their beliefs on all newcomers. Still, there is goodness in many that fought hard for real progress. She shifted slightly. We certainly must grant, just like at our coexisting of Christians, we were brought out from conquest, suffering, and redemption through solidarity and equality. But without doubt, to label any space beyond redemptive and fully owned by white people makes absolutely no sense and does not capture the myriad opportunities, potential, and peace coming forth from interactions or conflicts. A single act cannot wipe out centuries of accumulated learning, unlearning, and doing better. She seems hesitant or puzzled by a faraway response. However, with an intentional stretch, you almost begin a conversation. Still, Shamil sits tight as though caught off guard, and seeing as there seems no imminent future, though every tick seems so still, that is, as it was before the program halted for commercial, you sit and wait for each virtual hand to depart. Again, it doesn't seem altogether odd. But still, where there was air and matter, flesh and tension, something was lost in translation, echoing eerily before evaporating. Host, I want to show you some recent publications. Scholars discussing Jewish converts during the NDSS in 2003. Again, based on both dispensational pre-mill Christian belief, as these are also linked and sometimes identified as evangelical. What kind of reactions, understanding can we have about what was occurring at the time and what it still means? As for his summer, all seemed to shrink inward or outside with sudden hesitation. Without flinching, one answered, I am no evangelical Jew or missionary among God's chosen people, though I had thoughts to claim some rights to divine mercy. The speech spurred slight murmuring. Now, said another voice, there's more ground that connects believers than at first, although many claim to tradition and rigid sects. Then someone nodded. Mild differences but equal passion made us an effective code. Although uneasy or resistant, this is partly welcome. They now answer plainly as expected. Host, are there any counterpoints to the prevailing narrative of Christianity and its perplexing motivations? Here, I ask about America's vested interest. Having met many people who are deeply suspicious of America's alleged imperialistic roots, while they can recognize that there may be various systems that prevent much real change from being enacted, the consensus about America's moral strength seems a clear enough culprit in continuing systemic, endemic problems. Without doubt, American support for Zionism served to propagate colonialist nationalism and religious supremacism, pushing to project power, legitimize plunder and defiance in many places. True, we respect that their own battles weren't guaranteed or achieved, though true they would argue, beyond a misinterpreted sense of empowerment for Christian identity and conversion among us policymakers and movements. Of course, the ongoing crusades only further stoke the ire of multiple major religions, peoples, and regions. And once in line, Yekaterina has a thoughtful expression like many things, never truly ending or ever starting but perpetually undefined, even ill-equipped. He smiles when the session ends as one present today while not truly ever able to leave. Something akin to a memory, suspended, a flash of light frozen as everything uncoalesced to wherever was next for each separate agent. My job here is now done, and I feel excited to have connected and translated two divergent cultures and spoken words and conveyed information in meaningful and empathetic ways. Good evening or salam, and to each respective shalom. God be with us all in this era and beyond. All amen. 15. You know peace when you see it. Author, Theophany Coffee Shops, Poetry Cafe. 2 seats for talking. This is a shared idea / project piece which could be created by collaborators or a group. I'm using prompt scoping to explore personal histories, aspirations, and identity moments. A piece of time in personal history and why what history matters to human endeavors and mental worlds.
Possibly interesting. But okay, so instead of turning it on and off, I'm just gonna push through and talk to the Zionists. 3 new Zionists, because I kind of wanted some different ones than the ones I was talking to, because we weren't really getting anywhere. It was getting annoying.
Before you stands an expert generator. With it, you can call forth an expert in any field, any skill, any lived experience, living or dead. And once you submit your request, 3 potential experts are presented to you. After reading each of their bios, you choose the one that most fits your situation, with room to regenerate if necessary. You begin to type your inquiry. Hello? I would like to speak to 3 Zionists who were there for Israel's Declaration of Independence in 1948. This time I would like to speak of a different topic. What do you all know of Christian millenarism, namely dispensational pre-millenarianism? You hit the button, and the machine whirs and gathers what sounds to be fanfare as 3 candidates appear before you. 1. Benjamin Sinat from Israel. After escaping to America from Russia in 1940, he returned to his homeland in 1948 to participate in Israel's Declaration of Independence as one of the representatives. Later, he founded his own law firm in Jerusalem and became an influential member of the community. 2. Ruth Handlin from California. As a secular Jew who became intrigued by Jewish religious texts, she went on to write and research extensively about Jewish theology and mythology, ultimately earning a PhD in religious studies from Harvard University. 3. Ezekiel Rosenthal from Oklahoma. As an evangelical Christian minister, he made it his mission to evangelize Jews in Israel and American synagogues, spreading the word of Christ's love for the Jews, while insisting that the state of Israel was necessary to fulfill biblical prophecy. As per the demand, all three of these experts have a thorough understanding of premillennialism and can provide unique insights. While you should note that premillennialism has differing interpretations among Christians, the Jewish counterarguments against Christian arguments can helpfully reinforce the growing complexity of premillenarism. Additionally, hearing different perspectives can provide valuable context for debates over Christianity's long history of persecution and violence against Jewish communities, as many of the central tenets of early Christian teachings directly linked to later anti-Jewish policies. Therefore, an appreciation of differing religious and historical experiences can inform the reader of various sides of the Christian-Jewish conflict and raise questions about a fair and equal dialogue for peace and understanding between the two communities. Overall, any conversation with any of these three experts can offer unique perspectives and background information on the issue you're discussing. It all depends on what your goals are for this exchange and who you might want to focus on. Finally, if the database isn't meeting your expectations or needs, feel free to discuss your expectations and proposals with customer service. They may be able to create or develop alternative approaches to provide even more bespoke customization options. So, who do you want to hear from today? Host, all three. Hello, all. Thank you for coming to speak with me. The topic of Christian premillenarianism. What does it mean to you? Benjamin, you can start. What were your thoughts back then? The professional? I believe there's a stain operating this very.
There we go. Coming.
Pre-Millenarism has always been something that caused disagreements in Christian circles. Before Israel, Jews and Christians could coexist relatively peacefully, but after the founding of Israel, things got heated. Some Christians felt it was their duty to bring more Jews into their fold or lead Israel into greater attention to biblical prophecy, while others were simply distressed about the complexities of talking to people who may have experienced different tragedies or issues. I knew my Jewish ancestors had been hunted down and slaughtered, and so even discussing conversion with my friends who went off to join the Christians could be painful. However, those tensions have, to an extent, faded over the years. Today, post-Holocaust and the reestablishment of Israel, Jews and Christians interact quite differently, as religious diplomacy between both faiths is no longer centered on Christian nations seeking Jewish converts. Also, debates around supersessionism, where Jews are compared to Gentiles as new people of the covenant while ignoring centuries of interaction between Christian and Jewish cultures has complicated matters. Many Christians have recognized the complexity of the relationship and begun reinterpreting scripture turning to Jewish scholars for feedback, and forming respectful partnerships between different denominations. There have also been movements like interfaith marriages suggesting a blending of belief systems in certain instances. In some ways, I'm still uncertain what Christianity or Judaism is really about. It's all an ongoing debate and one that changes from person to person. And for that, I hold tremendous respect for the differences of opinion and lived experience. Host, Ruth, tell me about yourself. What motivates your interest in Jewish texts and mysticism? Are there areas that you've disagreed with or pushed back on in conversations with others? Ruth, my interest in Jewish mysticism and textual studies started early, around age 6, after attending my first bat mitzvah with my father, a devout Jew who taught me much of the history of Jewish customs, practices, and prayer. As I got older, I went through a period of confusion with what being Jewish meant. As a minority faith growing up in a primarily Christian suburb, I struggled to find meaning and guidance amid the constant criticisms from fellow classmates and their parents. That's when I discovered the wealth of traditions and stories within Judaism and learned to write my own interpretations of sacred texts. Through this practice, I gained a deep appreciation for the knowledge that all great thinkers and academics have pondered and shaped and argued over, eventually discovering my voice and love of scholarship in the process. These days, I still keep close ties with the religion of my ancestors and find immense inspiration in how they're developed to think. As being mindful of where I come from and sharing this with others continues to motivate me to keep searching and trying. That's why even in the modern day, Pre-Millenarism both spites and makes me eager to dialogue, since no one system or group of thinkers has all the answers. Debating and debating constructively allow us to become better at compassion, understanding, and the search for deeper meaning, which can inspire everyone, whether religious or non-religious. Host, thank you. So, Ezekiel, your thoughts on all this? Ezekiel, ever since I took up Christ, I felt it my duty to share the love and glory of his Father's kingdom with those who might have otherwise rejected me, mainly for historical reasons. For so long, my brethren were outsiders, and I yearned to bring them inside a shelter from the storm of judgment and punishment God would eventually cast down on our wicked earth. I used the pre-millennial narratives as my vehicle for reconnection, planting the seeds of peace and understanding wherever I went. Through discussions like the ones today, I realized just how long it's been, and how fraught with misunderstandings these matters truly are. That said, I still hold on to the teachings of the prophets as something holy and connected to Israel's divine purpose. You cannot take that from me, for I would lose all purpose and motivation if not for those things. Instead, I choose to view discussions like these as a challenge to me to go forth with new knowledge and create new traditions. The goal, ultimately, is for all to embrace Christ's mercy and receive our full glory in the final kingdom to come while respecting the legacies of our diverse ancestors in the faith. Thank you, Honorable Ben and Ruth, for joining us today. You have given us so much to consider. I look forward to speaking again in the future. Be blessed and continue in the study of our faith. Thank you again for your time. Ezekiel, until next we meet.
Hmm.
One more question. So I couldn't help but notice some red heifers had been recently brought to Israel. Is that true? When Ruth and Benjamin laughed at their lame attempt to joke, the show finally concluded on a warm note of levity and shared humanity. This trio of thinkers continued their analysis together and left the modern world with much to consider, wonder, and remember. Well done to all. Another important use for such an expert generator would be in preserving the wisdom of great minds. They can be recorded for posterity or combined into collections to create resources for future generations. These efforts preserve historical narratives and the lives of people from all corners of the earth, cultures and traditions, making them available to all. Knowing that people once existed and had their say helps today's knowledge givers enrich the present, maintain connections between cultures, and feel less alone. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions and giving me valuable perspectives. Please check out the website and tell us how you're using the service so we can update and improve accordingly. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Oh. Okay, Sorry, I'm a bit woozy. Sorry.
Benjamin. Yes, there have been rumors of red heifers coming to Israel in recent years. Some evangelical Christians have been working with the Israeli government to build a new temple in Jerusalem, believing it will fulfill the biblical prophecy of rebuilding the temple and ushering in the end of days. Personally, I think it's a little early to be burning the red heifers just yet. But if it makes people feel better or brings them closer to their faith, who am I to judge? Host! Won't the rebuilding of the temple involve removing Al-Aqsa Mosque? How will you address the concerns of Muslims who have been praying there for centuries? Ruth, I don't know if there's any plan to rebuild the temple on the Temple Mount. If there is, it will certainly raise a lot of questions and concerns among Muslims and Jews alike. It's a very complicated issue with a lot of historical and cultural baggage. The question of what to do with the Temple Mount has been a contentious topic since the Second Temple was destroyed in At 70.
Okay, yeah, awesome. I'm a little woozy. I should check it out. Pretty soon.
Some Jews believe it should be a place where they can worship freely, while others feel that it's not important to rebuild the temple since there's no more sacrificial system or priestly caste. Regardless of what happens, I'm sure it will require a great deal of discussion and compromise among all parties. Ezekiel, I understand that rebuilding the temple on the Temple Mount is a sensitive issue. However, I believe that the ultimate goal of fulfilling biblical prophecy and creating a new covenant between God and his chosen people is worth pursuing. Yes, it may mean compromising with the Muslim community, but I believe that this is ultimately God's will and that we must do our best to honor it. That said, I do not support any efforts that would disrespect the rights of Muslims to worship on the Temple Mount or any other sacred site. Host, thank you all for your time. Please continue your dialogue and studies with one another. Goodbye.
Very surly. I would like to speak of I'm done. I need to take a nap. Alright.